All right, it is 6 p.m. and I am calling to order the March 19th, 2024 meeting of the Rutland Conservation Commission. Present in the room, Peter Crane, Joan Delaquila, Glenda Williamson, Skip Clark, and our newest member, welcome, Tim Keenan. Present remotely is Melissa Danza and our able staff, very helpful staff, Tamika Murphy. Welcome one and all. We are being recorded. We are being live streamed. We're on Zoom. Will be available for rebroadcast in our VOD service and YouTube tomorrow. Now I like to find my mouse so I can share the screen. There we go. Perfect. We start with meeting minutes from March 6th.
I'd like to make a motion to accept as written, because I didn't find anything wrong, but that's only me.
I'll second.
Cool. I will note, Tamika, you did not have the opportunity to use de minimis in these meeting minutes.
I was very disappointed.
I also didn't find anything, so any other questions, comments, corrections? All in favor, we'll start here. Roll call.
Delaquila, aye.
I abstain, I was not present.
Clock eye. You want to abstain?
I'll abstain also.
Melissa?
Danza, aye.
And Crane, aye. Moving on, we are now going to continue ever so briefly, the notice of intent for Miles Road Lot 2. We do not have a DEP number. This is the plan that we're used to. Does anyone have, we don't have anyone here for the applicant who was told he didn't need to arrive, simply because there's no DEP number, so we're just going to continue the hearing unless there are questions or comments.
Tamika, just to confirm for the record, we didn't get any response back from DEP, right? Because we reached out too.
That is correct. Yep, I emailed them late last week and I never got a response back. I spoke to the applicant this morning and he has not heard from them either.
Thank you.
Interesting. So,
DEP right now, from what I understand from some folks, is kind of backed up. Things are not flowing very well. So I don't know if this is the only one affected on it.
Well, they just hired a new analyst, they should be on the ball. Just saying.
all right, so I will take a motion to continue this until April 1, is that correct to me? Or is it April 2?
April 2.
April 2.
I'll make the motion to continue.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Delaquila, aye.
Can I vote on this because
Yep.
I wasn't here at the last meeting?
To continue, yes.
We'll continue.
Okay. Williamson, aye.
Clock eye.
Keenan, aye.
Melissa?
Danza, aye.
Crane, aye. So just review them. You've only missed,
I have to read the minutes and sign off.
and sign a magic form.
A Mullen.
Mullins rule, yep. Okay, continued, moving on. So there have been a couple of discussions about the pipeline project that Jordan Farms has proposed. There was a meeting some time ago with our at-the-time agent and the town administrator, and I'm not sure who else was there, but I thought it might be best for the commission to not think about things that we've heard and instead hear directly from the applicant. And so I've asked Randy Jordan to appear to give us an overview of the project, if you will, so that we can be as well informed as we can when it comes before us as a technical matter.
Randy Jordan, Jordan Dairy Farms, 51 Muscatbog Road. As you know, we spread manure to fertilize fields. And recently, a year or so ago, we purchased a drag hose system to apply manure faster and more efficient and minimize fuel to get manure to the fields and minimize our traffic flow. We do it up and down currently on Muskapog Road and our home farm in Spencer, Massachusetts. We're pumping anywhere from 1,000 gallons a minute to 1,700, depends on elevations and pressures to do that. We have recently just received a grant from the Department of Food and Agriculture to help inject the manure directly into the soil to minimize any runoff and capture all the fertilizer value going to it. We have not used the device yet. We didn't get the grants until later last year. We have intentions of using it this year on corn and hay ground to do it. The only way we can currently use that device is if it's hooked up to the hose, because the hose has to supply this device that's 24 feet long. It injects it directly into the ground to do it. The only parcel of land that we have off the farm currently that is a substantial acreage is over the Overlook area, part of the soil fill project that we had a number of years ago. There's 60, give or take, acres over there that we have the ability that we could get the hose to it. We currently don't have enough hose, but willing to purchase more hose or put in a solid line to get there. In turn, the majority of our property is contiguous from the farm headquarters on 51 Muskapog directly to Route 68, with the exception of the rail trail, which is 50 feet wide. And then there is property from the rail trail to 68 that we currently own in some section, and we have neighbors that will let us cross their property. And then we have to get underneath Route 68 or go over or whatever to do that now. On the other side, there is a brook. Muskapog Brook is over there as well. That's on there. Our intention was to do directional boring from the rail trail on our property, underneath the rail trail, right under Route 68, and continue on the other side of the brook and minimize any headaches at all. We would do a directional boring, which we did over in Spencer last year underneath Northwest Road, and only took us a week to get permission from the town over there, and they gave us a license agreement to do it. I had talked up to the town hall about, hey, could we do something similar to that here in the town of Rutland? And there's different philosophies that Joe Buckley at the time and I believe Austin was here at the time, that we had talked about that they wanted to go a different direction than we wanted to go in. I've talked to DCR because they own the rail bed, or the state owns the rail bed under DCR to do that. And maybe that's a can of worms that I probably shouldn't have opened, because it's very difficult to cross state property any way, shape, or form, far more difficult than I ever anticipated to physically do it. There are some catch basins there, pipes there that go through. I will tell you right now that I've never seen any water in it, and I truly believe it was replaced with a potential cattle crossing that went underneath the railroad trestle for earlier farmers to get their animals from one side of the rail trail, the railway to the other side of the railway, that I think I could use easily, and I probably shouldn't have asked. Any of the catch basins or the pipes that go across on Muskapog or Northwest Road, we pull a hose through and do it that way. You have other methods that you can get underneath roads or things like that, or you can put bridges down that you can do, but there's a liability of somebody hitting the bridge abutment that you transfer water to it. When we had built a digester, we had put a hose down to the reservoir, pumped water out of it, and filled the digester tank to make sure there was no holes in the tank when we originally did it, and we put bridges across. Muskapog's not a heavily traveled road. We could certainly do it on the rail trail, and there wouldn't be a hiccup. People with wheelchairs or bikes can get over it relatively simple and easily could do that. Route 68 is a much different, wider, faster road that we just don't want to take the liability. Similar to the situation over in Northwestern Road in Spencer. We didn't want somebody to hit the bridge abutment to do that. That's why we did directional boring over there. Originally, we were just going to go on the other side of Route 68 to get over there, and there's some culverts across underneath Route 68 that have a fair amount of water going off the hill that comes down from Route 68 over there and goes over there. They drop off on the other side of Route 68, and then the water ends up into Muskapog Brook. For all intents and purposes, the easiest and simple thing to do is put a lay flat hose, similar to a fire hose, but it's designed to handle this 200 PSI or less pressure going on it. It's reused, it's on a reel. coming 660-foot sections that are all coupled together. The likelihood of it failing is slim to none. Does it fail? Yes, it does. If it rubs on a rock or gets barbed or ties into a pretzel-like shaped thing in the field that we do. I do have a piece of that in the truck if you'd like to see it. I didn't bring it in because it smells like poop. So in turn,
Thank you.
we said, well, let's do some directional boring. We were successful over there in Spencer doing directional boring, and the original plan was to directionally bore the whole way to do a cross. The numbers and the quotes that I have got to do directional boring is not feasible to do it. It's about $140,000 to go 900 feet, and they're concerned with the elevation. The elevation from 68 up to our property on the other side of the rail trail is, could be in a neighborhood of 75-foot elevation to physically do it. So the $140,000 doesn't physically work mathematically. I can move a lot of manure for $140,000. I haven't ruled it out yet because I think it's the safest way to physically transfer manure, because you would use this pipe that's called HDPE pipe. It's typically what's used on temporary water lines that you see along the edge of the road if they're doing repairing water lines. It's black. You could drive over it with a bulldozer and never corrupts it. They fuse it together. The likelihood of that ever failing is almost next to never. Somebody shot it, somebody did something like that, you do it. Directional boring, it would be pierced, it's horizontally drilled down through. The gentleman that gave us a quote is out of Townsend, Massachusetts. All he did was, thousands and thousands of feet under the ocean floor, drilling down to find oil rigs and do it, and they do a lot of vertical boring doing it. It's a well-versed gentleman. The gentleman I used before was somebody out of Maine to physically do it. I went to the town to ask questions of how and can we do this, and let's, before somebody asks questions about what's that black hose going underneath the road to physically do it, we'd ask questions. We've done it for a year on Muskapog Road. We've had no trouble as a whole. We've done it in Spencer, the same thing, next to never a problem. We did have a pinhole 2 Thanksgivings ago beside the road on Northwest Road in Spencer, and we had a rainbow of brown material going underneath the road that we had to shut down and do a replacement to it. So it does happen, but it's not a major leak at all. There is methods out there that you can put pressure gauges on it and have the pump shut down immediately to eliminate any major failure. Currently, we truck manure over to Overlook Road. We're doing somewhere in the neighborhood of we're doing hundreds of loads a year over there with manure. We have a greater chance of getting a flat tire and rolling a truck over and dumping it into the water over there than we do any of the manure there at all. DEP has said no multiple times in different shapes, ways, or forms in regards to getting it over there. I don't completely understand how and why they can't say it over there. The biggest concern now is I can't put a permanent pipe underneath the rail trail to get it there because it's not a temporary pipe to do it. I may go back to them and ask if I can do a lay flat hose temporarily over the top of the rail trail, which I've talked to the rail trail people and they're perfectly content with that. More or less, Randy, do it what you want, but if somebody calls and questions it, we'll have to follow the hose and see where it goes, right? But in turn, I think I can go through the pipe and it wouldn't affect anybody at all and be okay. I spoke to Chris Koloski in recent history of going underneath Route 68 and using the pipe underneath the road, which would be the safest, cheapest, and easiest way. Chris has no potential issues with the situation. He said, I prefer if you didn't leave the pipe there because naturally those pipes that are currently there take a fair amount of water during a heavy rainstorm that's getting there. Pipe can go through, come directly back out within a day of, we could do 60 acres in the course of a day, problem free to do it. We do it a couple times a year, spring and fall, and get manure over there efficiently. So I went to Austin to speak of what to go and which direction to go, and that's when you had your conservation agent, and out of no disrespect to her, but she was a young girl that didn't necessarily know even what a manure drag line was at the time. So we had to educate her about that, and her initial reaction is no, no, no. And she had spoke to somebody from DCR when they were doing some work on Route 56 and explained things. So that's why we called the meeting together and had it all there. I brought in a gentleman from Tetra Tech to help us sit with us and help navigate this process, the correct direction, and what we did. They helped us do a lot of work when we built the digesters at different places about permitting process. He feels that we have the right to do this and apply for it. Part of the reason that we wanted to go as far we did with the directional boring is to get away from the wetland or any stream. He doesn't feel it's disturbing the wetland because you're going directly underneath it and or the brook. You may suggest that we go farther than we were planning on going, but all these directional borers know how far they need to go so it doesn't disturb the product of the water in either location that they're physically doing. So if they can get somebody to do directional boring cheaper than they physically can do it, then I would potentially ask permission to do something with the rail trail that's really DCR to give you a blessing there. And then I think the town would be a blessing of, hey, yes, you can use the culverts and, you know, take some sort of safety precautions or things like that. So if it doesn't break, because naturally the manure is gonna go downstream and go places that it shouldn't go if there's a fail safe that's in there. That's one reason that we wanna use hard pipe. You folks, if you felt comfortable and say, hey, Randy, we're all for this, but at the end of the day, we don't feel safe with the soft hose and you can go through the culverts, but we want a permanent pipe that is less likely to fail to do that. I believe that I have the ability to put this solid pipe through the ground that's fused together and put couplings on it on either end of it and then physically do it that way to go there. It's more of a pain in the kazooie dealing with these 6 or 8 inch pipes, whatever we choose to use, to get it over there, but they come in 20 or 40 foot sections that you have to fuse together and do it. I think my initial reaction is I'd run a cable through, I'd pull the cable through, and then I'd pull it back onto our property to do something like that to make it somewhat easier of process. It almost takes us longer to set this line up than it does to spread. We can do a 30-acre field in 3 hours. And that's putting some manure out pretty quickly.
Why wouldn't you just leave the pipe in?
Absolutely. I would do that in a
Why would you
heartbeat.
keep,
But leaving the pipe in is subject to DPW, because this is the under 68,
So,
right?
so DPW, right, if directional boring wasn't an option because of dollars and cents or for other reasons, right? And I put the pipe through, I'd be willing to leave the pipe there, and I've thought about it myself, is to make a method that water could pass through that as well. Put a screen on it so animals wouldn't get in there. It's not necessarily gonna fraction the hose, but yet do something so water could flow across there and have the other end open and do the same thing. I'd be 100% amenable to that as well.
I mean, it would seem to me to be less grief and aggravation.
Oh, for everybody. I mean, there's a heck of a cost to buy that pipe to do it, and that's part of the reason farmers use this lay flat hose, put it out for this field, pick it up, go to this field, but I think in the cost of things, if, hey, leave the solid pipe there, make sure water can flow through it, or if you're gonna have that 100-year storm, rip it out, right? I mean, you don't have that 100-year storm very often, you know, your normal.
You're only looking at the wall thickness as the obstructions.
That's correct, yep.
But,
No, but are you? Because if it's been piped through, then it needs to be cleaned, if we're gonna be left in place.
yeah,
So we also need to think about stream crossing standards. You just can't alter a existing culvert. Because if you put a pipe through a pipe, you're making it smaller.
Unless it's left open, which is what Joe was basically
No,
saying.
because then the width of it, you can't span it. So you're only getting that, then like 4-inch increments if it's not even that. You know what I mean? So you need to be able to have the width, the total width can't be split in half or quarters. Even if left open.
so my fear with pulling a pipe in and out is the possibility of straining the pipe or damaging the pipe while you're doing it. I mean, because let's face it, a pipe that size and that long, you're not pulling it by hand, you're gonna hook it up to a tractor and yank it,
Yes.
you know, and that, I would be concerned about damage to the pipe. That's why I asked the question about leaving it in place.
There's.
Do you have any idea how much diesel fuel you expend moving them, by truck?
if you take in all the equipment that's loading the mixing, loading the trucks, bringing it to the field, and then incorporating it in the field, you're talking about probably in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 gallons an hour. So you're somewhere in.
I'm just looking at the angle here of,
There's letters of support in the packet that I believe you guys received in regards to all this carbon footprint and neutral is what Vanguard, the people that partner with us at the digester there, and that's one of the angles that they had talked about there, believe in the digester and the farm is carbon neutral. So we're actually negative in regards to what we're doing, and we're trying to stick with some of that philosophy there. It's the cost, but yet it's about the saving of the environment as well. And part of the things that these, nobody will tell you this, but NRCS, who helped originally put the original manure pit in at the farm, they're all worried about the ozone layer because you got that much manure sitting in one particular area there going on to do that. I mean, part of the reason that we want to get this out is, you know, we hope to gravity the manure to Route 68, right? There's valves that still shut things off, and then we'll have the same pump. We have a 400 horse John Deere pump that would push it from Route 68 up to Overlook, up to where the soil fill project was, and it can do that in one push, I believe. And then we'd have one tractor up there that would inject the manure, so you're down to virtually 2 tractors doing the work, and we could do 60 acres in a day. You know,
see, I'm looking at, you know, if you had to sell it to somebody, you know, what are the positives?
Yeah.
And carbon footprint's a big item these days.
It seems to be positive.
Renee, how much of that mush prog brook would you have to
So
go
if I
through?
didn't
Would
do,
you, that would be all DCR's primary and all their secondary?
way above my pay grade, I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean by.
Would it go 0 to 200 feet from the stream? And 200 to 400 from the stream?
It's going under it.
I could potentially go under it, and that was part of the reason we were gonna go under it, and we'd go, I think the proposed thing was we were gonna go 90 feet from it. And then, if we didn't do directional boring, I would come down before the brook, and I would take a hard right and head toward Holden. And then we have a culvert there that we crossed when the animals used to be pastured there, and we'd go over the top of the culvert. I can show you pictures, I can take you to Vermont, I can take you to New York where they do a lot more drag line than this. They physically put the hose in the streams and rivers. Things are much different in other places. Now, in Vermont, they can't spread any manure from December 15th till April 15th. 0 manure, they'll let you compost it, but they don't let you move it because they're worried about nutrients running off the field in the off-time season. Massachusetts, it's December 15th till April 15th, unless you have an emergency or 30% cover of grass in the ground to physically do that. We're moving manure right now because we're full and the manure pit's either gonna run over or it's gonna go to the field. So we're moving early this year because ground conditions like it.
Does direct inject, when you inject it, does that relieve you of that?
I would assume yes, but I can't answer that. There's very little injection done here in Massachusetts. Some behind tractors with tanks on it, which you can do, but you don't wanna be bouncing up and down the road with this heavy device in the back of a tank doing it. There's very little downside to this. There's a lot of questions because of the uncertainty, similar to when the digester was built, of, you know, uncharted territory to do it.
Yeah, we had talked about putting a line underneath the river on Molten Mill Road, doing direct drilling. And DCR shot that down out of hand pretty damn quick. That was just to service a couple of houses,
For electricity,
sewer.
sewer.
And they
Gentleman,
said absolutely not.
gentleman from Tetra Tech, you know, feels that you're only piercing the ground. you know, in one spot, you gotta make a sump because you got all the slurry that goes in for directional boring, but it's very little disturbance at all, and you could do your setbacks with it relatively easily.
Yeah.
If we can't find somebody that can do the 900-foot push in one set, you can set up in between the rail trail and Route 68 and the Muskapog Brook, and then go on the other side and do it in 3 different pushes. It's more challenging, but you can physically do that. Part of my concern between 68 and Muskapog Brook, it has the ability to be pretty wet there and sometimes to do that. So that's why we're gonna go a little bit farther. There is other devices out there. I went to the New York Farm Show here back in February, and there's a company out there that sells bridges that go up and over roadways. It's 25 feet wide when it's set up, and it's 20 feet in the air, and they have hazard lights and signs that all go with it, and they can do that. I haven't measured Route 68, but I would assume you'd have to slow traffic down, but you could put a bridge over Route 68 to do that. So there is other methods out there that you could use that particular bridge at other locations, but that's about the only location that we have that has any significant. We can't go to your house with, go clear across town, with hose of 5 miles of hose for only 10 acres, we've gotta go for larger chunks. We don't have a lot of large chunks. We have a lot of property, but we don't have a lot of large chunks together.
Looks like DCR is gonna be a big one here.
Yeah, that's gonna be your challenge.
You gotta get a variance, so that triggers MIPA. And then, but you did have something about Article Chapter 97.
97 is permission to put a pipe underneath there.
Article 97 is just the designation of open space.
I know, but it says it doesn't consider the issuance of a revocable permit or license of limited duration, a disposition of land.
Right,
So
but
it meets,
it applies to open space.
so this basically say they'd let you do it under Chapter 97, right?
Somewhere, didn't there, in their response, they specifically said you need, therefore needs a variance. Placement of the pipe onto the rail trail is considered a permanent easement and requires Article 97 legislation approval.
And then he referenced EEA here, who is basically Chapter 97, right?
Yeah, so Article 97 in the Public Lands Protection Act, so you kind of have to, anything that you get rid of, which I'm assuming that's what they're stating as a permanent easement, you have to get a 2/3 vote at legislature and approval, and you have to at least replace it in kind, if not more, for the same purpose of what you took away.
But that is not jurisdictional to us.
No.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, that's just what Article 97 is.
Right.
Would that also,
like-
Melissa, would that also trigger potential involvement of Army Corps?
It depends. It could, yeah. I mean, just the project alone could. I'm not as familiar. Jared probably would have had a better answer for that one.
No one has spoke of the Army Corps yet, of the people that I've spoken to.
Well, just because they don't speak of it doesn't mean,
Valid point.
they're saving now, and that's the whole card,
I don't know, I don't think so, you're not dredging. Like, we had to go Army Corps and we literally just dredged a little tiny pond at Trout Brook. You'd think we were trying to build the Taj Mahal. Took like a year to permit it, 3 days to do the work. I mean, it looks like you got some, if you can get through DCR.
So I guess, I'm here with you folks because that's what Austin suggested, and we all sat around the round table and had a meeting with the conservation agent at the time to do it. So do I need permission in any shape, way, or form from Conservation Commission here in the town of Rutland? And if so, what is it?
So the fast answer is, in my opinion, there is no question that Concom jurisdiction is part of this. And I say that because the entire project does not stay on agricultural land, and therefore the entire project cannot be considered agricultural exemption. It can't.
Yeah, if it's,
It's leaving it for that, for the abutters land, it's leaving it for the rail trail, it's leaving it for 68. And yes, on the outsides of both sides, they are agricultural land. But because part of the project leaves it, I think my interpretation is that that Concom has a permitting duty here. Melissa, do you agree with that assessment? Let's start with that.
I would agree, yes.
I think we should get NRCS's take on it. How far, normal maintenance of land and agriculture use, does that include off-site, going off-site? Like outside of your,
I don't think it does.
for normal.
And I think that
I don't think
that might be more clear in the WPA, because it has restrictions on, expansion of use within resource areas, which even if you're drilling underneath it, can have impacts to resource areas, especially if you're crossing through a culvert.
And if you'd be in the 100-foot buffer of the BVWs, you'd be in, if mush pugs, brooks, is that perennial?
Yeah, it's probably riverfront.
it's
Then you'd be in
a river.
You'd be in Riverfront,
Yep.
BLSF, BVW.
Right, so this is a multi-jurisdictional problem,
100
I get
foot.
that, because there's watershed and there's wetlands. And yes, the spaces overlap, but the jurisdictions do not.
What did they do in Spencer, do you remember, with the permitting?
Yeah, but they didn't know what.
Did Spencer Concom, were you in any regulated areas in the Spencer?
Oh, there was no wetlands involved at
There's
all?
nothing over there. In Spencer, I used to live there. There's nothing protected.
High and dry.
Well, no, they don't have any headwaters.
Spencer was just, went to the highway boss, went to the town administrator. Town administrator went to the selectman, gave me a license agreement in less than 7 days.
And you only crossed Northwest Road.
That's correct.
So you weren't-
Yes, because this is different. Because you have,
So you got
Rail
the
trail.
deal just strictly with the town on that.
yeah, this is,
But we didn't speak to Concon or anything but there was no water. They didn't.
Right.
Yeah, zero wetlands out there.
I mean,
So, so in order for us to permit this, or to determine the appropriate permit process, that we would actually need more wetlands-based information. And that I'm sorry to say gets people like a wetland scientist involved to start doing delineations.
So, let me ask a question. Can I put the hose on top of the ground and not go through a wetland and over the top of the culvert? And do I need to have permission from you?
I would say yes.
To go over the ground, if over the ground includes over wetlands, over a jurisdictional area, I would submit yes.
It's not just the wetland, it's also the buffer. So
No,
you got-
that's right, jurisdictional area.
Well, no, if he was outside of the buffer, he would not necessarily have to see
Agreed.
us.
If it was not in a jurisdictional area, you would not have to deal with us at all.
In directional boring, I go under the wetland and outside the buffer area, I still have to get permission because. Why?
Potential impact to.
To the wetlands are going below.
Well, yeah, and there's groundwater, public drinking water.
Well, there's no drinking water there.
It goes in the reservoir.
I mean, if you look at the,
It goes down in the Quinnipiac and Jeff.
Oh, no, never mind, I misspoke.
Alright.
I was thinking, Spencer, not,
Right, okay.
How deep do they do that directional drilling?
What we did in Spencer, we were 5 feet underneath the road.
5 feet
And then
down?
they asked me to pierce on my property, not town property of the right of way. So both ends were pierced out on our property. I assume the responsibility to any damage of the road in Spencer, right in the lease agreement that I have with them, if there was any heaving or the pipe collapsed or something like that.
Right.
We assume responsibility. They didn't require me to do a bond or anything like that. Overall, it was relatively simple. It'd probably be a little different on Route 68 because of the elevation between Route 68 and the rail trail, or my property heading up to the rail trail is quite a bit, so there could be a much greater depth of that. Underneath Muskapog Brook would be far greater than 5 feet because they don't want any chance of anything coming up to the riverbed.
Is Mass DOT involved at all? I didn't hear them because it's Route 68. That's
No,
a state-
68's a town road, it's not,
Town road.
it's not a state road.
Oh,
Correct. That would definitely
That's
scare,
good.
that would definitely scare me.
With all the success we've had with the DOT lately, really?
Up in Vermont, where I purchased the hose reel originally, Route 89 was right there, which is one of the largest roads in Vermont going through. And they did directional boring underneath Route 89 because literally the farmer had to drive 20 miles to get onto the other side and they pierced the hill there. The largest challenge that they have with getting directional boring or doing anything with manure underground is rail trails. Federal railroad beds is what they have. That's their largest challenge that they have. State highways in Vermont, perfectly fine. Very little directional boring is done because that's a permanent cost of that particular section doing. Most farmers will go a mile out of their way to go through a culvert to get the hose through temporarily to do it. The
So
farmers.
they're gonna directionally drill and leave like a sleeve? That
Yeah,
HDPE
permanent pipe stays there,
sleeve?
yep.
Yeah,
And then we just hook on either ends. We don't run our hose through there, is what we did in Spencer.
or you just connect directly to that?
Correct.
What size is it? Is it 8 inch?
8 inch is what we've proposed for this particular property. We're currently running 6 right now, but there's less resistance on an 8-inch pipe than a 6-inch pipe, so. But it may come down to cost too. Hey, we can directional bore 6-inch. That's something cheaper than 8-inch, and dollars and cents may determine some of that.
Yeah.
You only can push so much through that size.
Yeah.
It says it has no transfer of fee interest. The work will not alter the land surface. The license would not require legislative action or further review under Article 97.
That was his contention in his introduction to the DCR.
So you
So the DC,
you didn't get that from the state?
no,
from
the state said
EEA.
exactly the opposite. The state showed what I said, what I showed you.
So this was his initial
Yes.
proposal, and then this came after?
And this was the response.
Well,
Okay. So, irrespective of method, we believe that there is a Concom jurisdictional permitting question or a mechanism that we need to determine. And I can't tell you today what that looks like. But I can just say that there would be something. And I can't say it won't be an RDA, which would be the easy one. I can't say it won't be a full-blown NOI.
I think at the end of the day, you're probably gonna end up with an NOI.
I'm not in a position to know for sure. I understand the opinion. I respect it, but I don't know.
It just depends, like, if you're going through wetlands, like, it just depends the location where the wetlands are is gonna determine what you need to file, really.
I think your biggest hurdle is not gonna be us, it's gonna be DCR.
Let me also point blank say, I believe this is permittable. So I'm not trying to say, don't even bother trying. I'm just saying, I just don't know what the details of it are gonna look like.
So, will you guys talk about it and tell me, can you give me options of what I need to do? Meaning, Randy, if you do directional boring, you have to do X, Y, and Z to get this permit to do this. If you choose to use lay flat hose on top of the ground and go through a wetland, you have to do this. Can you give that to me in written form that I can have our consultant? I don't necessarily understand all the different verbiage that you guys are using. It's way above my pay grade, and that's why I've hired somebody to do this. In all due respect, you know, Spencer was above average of timely doing it. I realize it's a different scenario doing this. I've talked about this for over a year because I've had the hose for longer than a year here, and it really shouldn't take this long to get answers. I realize this is the first time that I've come to you formally. You've heard a lot of other things and different things with our conservation agent that has all taken time. Our window of opportunity now is probably gone for this year because we're a month out from making fertilizer fly. But yet, if it's a doable process that we can afford to do, I still would like to pursue it, and I completely understand it will take time. But, you know, I don't understand the clear path in your eyes that we gotta do. If you listen to the consultant that has helped write that letter that we sent to you, he feels it should be a relatively simple process with applying for a couple different little things, and we're off to the races and goes. But obviously, there's different opinions. I'm only asking for what the town has to say. I can deal with DCR. I don't know how yet, but we will cross that bridge literally or figuratively with a pipe. I don't know, you know, whether it's overhead, underground, ask for forgiveness later.
So Randy, I think first I also want to state I personally don't appreciate the comments about our previous conservation agent. I think the average person wouldn't have known exactly what you were describing, and I think that's completely normal. She's very intelligent and educated, and we're sad to have her gone. But irregardless of that, I think I also might be the general of the feeling to go with the notice of intent. I think the number one issue that's been reiterated to you is that DCR may be your stopping factor, and that should be your number one step. Our permits might be irregardless because DCR might shut this down because they have the most authority. Also, I think a plan for a project to this scale needs actual plans. You need to know how deep you're going and what exactly that process entails, and we haven't seen that. Until we see that, it's kind of difficult to understand what the project is and how to guide you. To be safe, I think the notice of intent, which is the full kind of application, is the safest and easiest, most straightforward path to go. And I would be fine and favorable recommending that's what our recommendation is.
Well, I apologize for my comments earlier in regards to your conservation agent.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if I interpret Melissa correctly, maybe I should see how I can cross the bridge with DCR first.
Right.
But at the end of the day, And then I would proceed potentially with you with the NOI and go with that direction, and maybe I'm concerned with timing, right? So DCR may take me 2 months to get where I need to do, but I don't wanna accomplish that task or figure out how to work together with them and then come back to you in 2 months, and it takes another 2 months to the permitting process for you folks of time and hearings or whatever, you know.
I think you can do them simultaneously, but I think both agencies are gonna wanna see plans, so I think look into what those plan requirements are, our notice of intent requirements are on our website, what that would look like. You can ask what DCR is. We will probably want input from DCR during our hearing. So I think, the timeline can be simultaneous, but I think a lot of our discussions will be contingent on DCR's, whatever they need to get through their process.
One of the advantages, Randy, going to DCR first, is any of the engineering that needs to be done, the drawings and stuff that they're gonna want, you're gonna be able to use them twice. You're gonna be able to use them when you come here to us. You follow what I'm saying? So it's not, you'll get, I won't say double your money back on it. But,
Out of the money you have to spend, you
The
get to use
toughest-
the same thing twice.
the toughest row you gotta hoe at this point is DCR. Whatever we say, all right, if you were to come to us first and we blessed everything, that would have no effect on whatever DCR is gonna do. All right, how they're gonna rule. So,
Because they're above us, really.
yeah, they're not gonna listen to us necessarily.
Right, but see, at the end of the day, if DCR tells me no, I could be completely wrong, but if DCR tells me no, I can go down the side of Wachusett Street and go to 68 that way without going over DCR property. Maybe I'm wrong in my thinking, but that's what they do in other states, not necessarily Massachusetts.
Avoid the,
Right,
Stay out of their,
right, if things that they can't say no to, I can go a different
Yeah.
direction.
if you're out of their
I
jurisdiction.
haven't got the answer, but I have a, this particular thing you can't see, but it's an orange bridge that goes over the road, and you can get 3 tractor trailers underneath there side by side. I can do that over the rail trail, which is over the width, and yes, I'm touching their airspace, but I'm not touching their ground to physically get there. But I don't know this, right? And
yeah,
I don't necessarily wanna do that because that's a heck of an expense just for the rail trail to do it, right? There's no water at the rail trail of that particular property, so I don't understand why they have been so challenging in the process that I'm doing at the rail trail, their property.
have you given them any drawings or anything?
Just hands, same as you have.
Those kind of things.
So you haven't, okay.
But see, I understand that you want engineered drawings, but we're
That's what they're gonna want, I mean,
But how are you gonna get engineered drawings? You don't necessarily know exactly where you're gonna go in that process. And the challenge that I have is the farmer doing this, trying to save money. I can't spend all the money on engineering costs and fees and permitting. I mean, I just continue to do what I'm doing.
yeah, you're gonna, at some point, Randy, you're gonna need some drawings. Whether you're coming strictly to us or you're going to DCR. That's a cost that's gonna be unavoidable. So you don't, at this point, you still have options available to you. All right, and you haven't exactly decided which one you wanna use yet. I mean, am I hearing that? I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. The letter that you guys were given was our original plan, and we thought that would be the less impact on the wetlands, any challenges with directional boring. Since this process has started, I got the price of $140,000 to do directional boring. That doesn't math out for me,
Right,
right? So, but yet, if you guys say, Randy, that's the only way you can do it, then I would have to consider it, right?
yeah.
I'd like to go to the lay flat hose on top of the ground, and in my opinion, I can go over a bridge to the wetland and like I've done
How much are those bridges?
40, this one's 40,000.
The problem is if you're
Do
in,
your financing for you.
you're in DCR's primary protection zone, they're gonna make you get a variance, and so you're gonna have to go through the MIPA process. You're gonna have to deal with the Article 97, and you're gonna have to get through the MIPA. And they have a list of stuff. Engineered plans. Calculations, detail on discharge area, description of leak detection system.
You have that paperwork there we got? Okay.
If you could write us something, doesn't have to be hugely detailed, and I'm not looking for plans, but you talked about your different routing options. For how would you go, where would you go if you were gonna go with lay down and remove pipe and then go with permanent piping? If we could get some of that in writing so that we can consider it a little more about how we would deal with it, I think that would help us. Again, I'm not talking maps and plans.
That was talked about at the meeting that we originally had. And the plan that you got, and we moved the location where we got was because that was the narrowest part to do Muskapog Brook, Route 68, and the rail trail. So that's why it's been moved to closer to Wachusett Street end of things. Originally, we were going to the closer to the Holden property, a Holden line on our property line, but it got moved up because of the directional boring and the width of the directional boring.
Right.
We gave you this proposal was our intended direction we were going to go in. We felt as a group that sat in Austin's office with DCR and NRCS and the conservation agent, and Austin was there. I think that was the only town folks that were at the meeting. And we felt that we gave you one direction of path that we wanted to go in, right? If we give you multiple choices and then there's more confusion that are physically going on. So that's why we gave you this proposal with intention of we could find somebody to do directional boring to make it do it and it have the less impact on the situation and be the safest of the bunch. And we're genuinely concerned about safety.
All right, so the question I asked you before, you had options. This is the option you prefer.
This is the option that we proposed at the particular time, yes. If you folks gave me a green light and said, Randy, this is the way we want to do it on this particular project. And, you know, I may come back to you and say, I can't find somebody to directional bore it affordable to make the work, right? And then you say, well, you have to jump through these hoops if you want to do a lay flat on top of the ground. And then that may be more hoops than I have to, and I'd have to go to the $140,000 directional boring. Or stop my crazy idea and go back to continue and to do what we do with trucks. So if I'm understanding you right, the biggest concern or the reason I'm here is because of wetland and buffer zones with the town and DCR.
Exactly.
The reason you're here is not to do with DCR, it's just what you said about the town, in terms
But
of.
working together
the
with
what, yes,
DCR.
exactly, that's right.
But I think Sean, my consultant there, talked about this being agricultural and there should be agricultural exemptions that obviously, in Peter's opinion, that there is not agricultural production in some of that area to physically do that. The rail trail and Route 68.
Right.
But that's like saying that I'm crossing Muskapog Road with a tanker that I'm on Muskapog Road for 2 seconds crossing over the road now. You know, there's not much difference in that perspective of things there. I mean, the forest
So
is,
there's also issues with Mushkapog itself being riverfront. There's more strict regulations. I'd be happy to put together, if the commission would want, kind of what those would be that would be applicable for, or what why it wouldn't be applicable in this circumstance. It might be helpful and we can forward it along.
And Melissa, when you said Muskapog, you were referring to Muskapog Brook or Muskapog Road?
Brooke,
Brook.
sorry.
Thank you.
That probably would be a good idea, Peter.
Oh, I agree. So Melissa, if you wouldn't mind putting that together,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for volunteering so quickly and easily before asked.
We were gonna ask you anyway, so.
Yeah, that's right. She knew it was coming.
So I'm sorry, can you say that again, Melissa, about, you're gonna talk about the riverfront? And allowed uses?
I'll review the agricultural exemptions under the Wetlands Protection Act, in areas that may or may not be applicable.
Do you know Bob Purcell? He's pretty good with the Wetland Protection Act.
Yes.
He's fully aware of what I'm up to.
So he could give you a guidance too.
But he said I did need my own permitting process, even if NRCS funded this project.
I mean, in terms of it being normal maintenance of land in agricultural use.
Okay. So Melissa's gonna write that up, send it to you and to us, so we can all read it.
So.
I will fully admit it.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry. No, it probably won't be until just right at the next meeting. I will be away next week, so just as a heads up.
So obviously Melissa lives in town, but she knows more than I do for sure, so what is her daytime job? She's very knowledgeable in what we're speaking about.
She's a conservation agent.
In Southborough.
Okay, thank you.
I work in other communities, yeah.
Do they have any manure lines in Southborough?
Do they have farms in Southborough?
Probably got
They
it.
do have farms in Southborough,
Yeah,
yes.
I would think they would somewhere.
They're high-end farms.
I know that when I used to drive through there, I saw all the land that was converted to residential and all the houses that went up.
My experience with dairy farms was falling in my uncle's troughs at the end of the stalls.
Alrighty. I think that's all we have today for this. Anybody else have other questions or comments before we move on? Randy, thank you for coming and presenting this to us. I'm glad we got it from the person who's most knowledgeable about what he's trying to get done instead of the rumors that have been sort of circulating.
Thank you. So while I'm here, I appreciate you taking time and at least considering and not thinking I'm completely off my rails on what I wanna do. The other day, I don't know whether you would give it consideration during your open session, but I have to go to a Ag Commission meeting here shortly to do it. But Ag Commission presented CPA at it, and Mrs. Williamson was there and Peter was there. So, you know, the Ag Commission is asking for other committees in town to consider it and possibly show support or ask questions for the Ag Commission to move forward in that crusade doing it. I spoke last night at the Selectmen's meeting a little bit and had some more questions that came up, and more questions came in today via the phone call. But, you know, if there's anything that the committee wants to know, that feels free to ask me while I'm here. I'm willing to come back and speak to the committee if they would like to do something on that idea at a later time as well.
Yeah, so because we can't take a vote to do it tonight because we didn't put it on the agenda. So Tamika, let's add CPA to our next agenda, please. And CPA letter of support, we can at least discuss what we're willing to say as a group.
That's all I can ask.
And then,
Okay, you got it.
thank you. Great,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
that one. Moving on. Oh, please tell me I didn't. Oh, good, I didn't. So sometime in '22, if I remember correctly, we permitted 151 Kenwood Road, which this is the original plan. And
Yes.
let me zoom out because this is, so it's a single family house, wetlands are here, and to make it far more interesting, the septic, well, the Title V system's over here, with pipe running all the way up there,
Correct.
briefly.
Now, did that septic system go in? Is that
It's installed.
Yep.
That system is in and the pipe is all the way up to where the house is. All that work's been done. From here, about here, down. This has all been, no other work needs to ever be done anywhere near this. The silt fence was put up with the wattles right along the limit of work. That's still there. Actually, they even put it along this line. I don't even know why they did that, but they did it.
Well, they put the,
complete.
they put the silt fence, but I don't think they put the wattles on that, they only did it on the down.
On the downside, yeah,
Which
they
is
only got the
fine.
so that was all done, and
Yeah,
he was
and
going
it-
to, so let me talk why I'm even here. I wasn't even around, and then I got a call from Brian Willett, who now owns this piece of land, and he's trying to get a building permit, and he has a building permit, but then he was asked to come give some explanation on the shape of that building doesn't match what the shape of the building he wants to build is. So I submitted a plan, I had my office send a plan showing a new footprint.
Right there.
Okay, so the old footprint actually went like this. So they made a shorter house with a little wing in the back. So it's actually, we're further away from the wetlands with this idea than we were with the original approved plan. So that's changed, and now you have a copy of that, signed, stamped, dated, of this change of, we're still in the same limit of work, nothing's changed. Some grading actually came closer to the house, not even as close to the erosion control line, as you can see. So that's what we're here. So they're hoping to go forward with that, with this original order of conditions. I don't feel that the change of the shape of the house is significant. It's actually smaller, so it's less impact than it is
And it's staying
expanding.
on the same footprint or within the
It's,
same?
yeah, well, here's the setback lines. If you look at here's your setback line. That's as far away as we can go, and here's the front setback line. So if you look at the other drawing that you had,
There we go. It's not
there's that setback
exactly the
line,
same.
and there's this setback line. So we actually pulled it like 2 feet closer to the street, getting further away from there, and then we're probably about the same on the side. So we're further this way with the building.
Back to the current, or the proposed,
No.
The wells
so you're not
drilled.
proposing any, you're proposing less grading.
Yeah, a little bit less grading. Not a lot, we're still within the limit of the original approved limit of work. That did not change whatsoever.
I would think you could do this with, it's not de minimis, but I think we could do this with an amendment.
I don't think we would even have to do.
No, so, yeah, just an administrative amendment. I think this wasn't any of the issue on the building permit. It was just a statement of if the plan has changed, the commission is supposed to be notified. Because a lot of the plans that he had uploaded didn't match what was submitted. So that's why I was confused of the old plan was there, but there was this footprint with a different house, and then the building plans looked a little bit different, so it was a little bit of confusing in the beginning. But I think the DCR concern was more of the issue after
Okay.
that.
So DCR, this is the 400-foot line. So 400-foot line, we're not even, the house is outside of the driveway's, a little portion of it's in it, but it's the secondary zone, which this is all allowed in the secondary zone. It's not in the prohibited zone, so we meet DCR requirements,
Well, it must have met before because you
And it
got
met before.
a
order of conditions, and
you got a DEP file number,
yeah, we got everything.
original.
We got everything to this
That
point.
has nothing to do with Watershed Protection Act, though. So that's what it's totally aside, not to say it's our jurisdiction, just a separate finding that DCR has issues with this lot. Not to say it has anything to do with our order of conditions.
DCR has issues with this lot?
As far as I was aware, they didn't have any records on this one.
Okay, well, I haven't received anything that they have any issues on this either, so I will look into that as a separate.
Okay,
I'll reach out to
That
Alan
was-
tomorrow. Absolutely,
Okay.
we'll reach out to Alan.
I'm
But
sorry if there was confusion there.
No,
But yeah, that was
that's-
more,
totally fine. I just.
that's what came back. And I just wanted to verify that we had the most up-to-date plan,
Yep,
especially
this
because it
is-
was the smaller one that was less impactful.
This is the most up-to-date plan, so.
Thank you.
So is that, Melissa, does that mean he goes ahead and does what he's gonna do, or he's gotta wait?
Well, he has to wait till the,
That's up to him and DCR. Yeah, that's,
I'm not worried about DCR. I just wanna make you guys happy so that
right,
the
so
owner is like,
let's,
what do I do? I go, I don't know anything about this other than.
let's start with our permit, let's get our permitting stuff,
and then
whatever
we'll
we're
go
gonna
from
do with it.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a discussion about DCR, because that's one of the reasons I brought this up. So in terms, I'll ask Melissa, what's the most right thing for us to do here? A simple administrative amendment?
yeah, we can vote an administrative amendment. If Tamika can write a quick letter just referencing this is now the plan of record and just plop it in our project folder.
Sure thing, and I'll upload it to the building permit as well.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve that, what Melissa just said.
The administrative amendment.
Administrative amendment.
And we have a second.
I'll second.
Other discussion, questions, comments? Roll call.
Talk lie.
Williamson, I.
Clock eye.
Keenan, I.
Dan's eye.
Crane, aye. There, you got an administrative
Thank you.
amendment. Concom has no issue with the building.
Thank you.
But we still gotta issue a final COC,
After it's done.
right? So you better behave in the interim.
It's
Julie.
recorded, so they can't go anywhere anyways, cause it's at the courthouse.
It's not getting away.
No, it's there. Well, thank you guys for your time.
You're welcome.
I'll
So
see you
what-
guys soon.
What I wanted to discuss, going to use this particular project as sort of the jumping off point for discussion, is we have not historically, as a matter of course, talked to DCR about projects. So my question is, who has in the past, and how do we make it so the DCR, what should we do with respect to DCR to ensure that they are informed so that they aren't, in their opinion, blindsided by?
In this one, I know that at one of the meetings during this whole process, I believe Alan was here. Not that that was officially talked about this one, but I know it went by him, but
That's the
I would.
applicant's responsibility.
I would say that's completely the landowner's responsibility to get all necessary
Okay.
stuff.
But I think, Peter, are you talking about being more proactive in doing so?
Yes.
So I think that when a plan comes in, if we look at it, you know, it's just part of our review step of looking at the plan. If it has any primary zones, we, you know, have whether Tamika or whoever, any staff, send it to DCR to, you know, as a FYI.
Peter, if I may, I was going to add, back in the day when it was Jen, we used to we had a habit of always sending a copy of the agenda to them, and then they would kind of do a quick search of the topics and decide if it was worth joining or not. Because I know Jen attended quite a few of our meetings, and I think with COVID that practice fell off. I know I haven't done it for a very long time. So if you feel that that would be helpful, I can just make it a habit of sending the agendas to Alan, and then he can check things out. I will say that
And that,
I often
Adding his name to
with
the email list.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Tamika, I like that idea a lot, because that way
Just-
he can decide what he cares about. And if he
go.
knows
Yeah.
everything we're working on,
They're on when I send out the public meeting notice with the agenda, they're on there.
You do that?
yeah.
They're one of the
I'm happy-
recipients.
Good idea, Tamika.
And I'll say too that I had reached out to Alan to extend an invitation for tonight, and he had another obligation, but he was going to plan to watch the recording just to see if there was any information that might be, pertinent to him. So I know that he does take advantage of following up with the recording. So if he has the agenda and can't make it, he'll know he can use that method as well.
yeah, okay. So I actually kind of like the idea of just notifying them more than I like sending them all the plans and all of the materials. I think that's,
Too much,
Well, there's no cost involved. I mean,
too much work.
just adds it to the
so.
distribution list.
And I'm, Julian, to your point, you're right, it really is supposed to be an obligation of the landowner. But we know that there have been multiple landowners involved since we approved this. So I don't wanna,
I will get send it, I'll tell the landowner and we'll send something out to the DCR.
Now, you did the original plan.
So we did, yeah, I did all of the stuff, so we'll take care of that.
okay, so we're fine, we're up to date, we're
I had
set.
Totally off the wall, are we done with this? I got a question on the last hour.
Yes, we're done with this, yes.
On the rail trail, down on 68, was there ever a cattle crossing that you know of somewhere along that? You never saw one of those, cause I just had a site in Charlton that there literally was a cattle
I
crossing.
never saw one, I'll be honest with you.
And
Then
we're
again-
using it as getting to some open space land. Cause it's literally a 12-foot huge crossing under the railroad, under the big railroad that goes across the country, and there's like 4 tracks on them, that's crazy. So, that is, if that was, then that's game over, but, and it doesn't have to be as big as that one, but if there is something, they did that back in the day. Railroads went through, and if they had farmlands, they made sure that they made accesses.
But a little more. Never mind.
I just don't know whether there was one, it was just, I don't remember seeing one down there, but maybe there was one.
The thing is, with rail beds, it's law that you cannot build anything on a rail bed,
No.
even if it's not in use, like the rail trail.
Right, I worked on Tennessee Gas and we were doing directional boring, my job was, I was a trench safety person, to make sure that the trench is safe for a human being to go into. We're under an Amtrak railroad, going with a 36-inch gas line, 14 feet below the railroad. And you wouldn't believe the amount of instruments they had on that railroad to make sure it didn't move, because if that track moved a little bit and that thing's coming at 90, there's problems. But they allowed it, and we went right under it.
Well, where was the place, wasn't there one over in Holden? The guy built right on the old rail bed? They made him take it down, federal
They probably
government,
would've.
federal
yeah.
government got involved.
And then another directional job I was on crossing the Mass Turnpike. This is in 1994 in Charlton. Crossing the turnpike with a directional bore, and they got, true story, they got halfway across and the bit broke off.
Oh, God.
So they pulled it, they got it, it looks like a well drilling bit, but gigantic with all sorts of carbide. And then there's a screw, and it sheared off. And they pulled out the shear, the part that sheared off, and the head at the time, this was in '94, was worth like $500,000. And the gas company said, not our problem. We need a hole from here to here, that was our contract. So we were able to, they came to us and said, is there any way that, and one of my engineers that we were working with, figured out setting up the rig on the other side and what this machine does, and hope to hit it from the other side. And
knock it
they
down.
did, but not directly straight on, it hit close enough where they could oblong it inside the hole. And they were in there, men with jackhammers and sleds in 36-inch pipe. They'd go inside this
God.
thing and and they recovered it. Wow. And that was on the turnpike. So we knew it was in the middle of the medium strip. So it was only in that area, it was like 10 feet down. Can we just go out there with some equipment and
Dig it out?
Nope.
Yeah, I just think of the tunnel. They started from France and they started from, and they met in the middle.
Yesterday, I was in Pennsylvania, and we went to a cavern below the surface, subsurface caves. I couldn't even believe that I was in this thing. 150 feet down, it was right alongside of a river, and we went in down, I don't know how many flights of steps, I was almost a heart attack. Get down to the bottom and walked into this cavern, and it was like a music hall underground. Of course, they charge you to go and see this stuff and see the stalactites and very interesting that something like that exists. So, and then there's one not far from there that is becoming a sinkhole. So that's where these sinkholes, there's holes all around us. Remember that? I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, are you kidding me? And
must
they
be
built
from
a house
the
on top of it. They didn't know back, in the 1700s, they built this giant house on top of, and when we were in the caverns, the house is above us.
Good luck bracing that.
Oh, well, thank you guys very much, and
Thanks, Julie.
next time I'll
Thank
make
you.
sure if anyone makes any changes before they go to the process, we take care of it this way. It'll just be a lot better than a phone call 1,200 miles away. What do we do? Thank you.
All right, thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Site visit for 20 Walnut Street. So apparently, for COC. Okay. I don't know, 20 Walnut Street pulled
Do we
up.
need to
but-
go out en masse, or can we just go as we can?
Peter, I put it under applications, and it's actually in the April 2nd folder. I did let them know you wouldn't be taking this up until that meeting, but I just thought if we could maybe be proactive and get the site visit done before that meeting.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. So the as-built plan and the request are in that April 2nd folder.
Oh, I see. Oh, they're there. All right, hold on. Let me find the right window to April.
I think I put it in tonight's folder too,
Well,
under COC request 20 Walnut.
I got it right here. There we go. Okay. So, do we want to do a group one, or would you just want to go out onesie twosie?
What have you?
Commission have an opinion either way?
You wanna go out Saturday?
I can't.
I'll be gone, so I definitely won't be there.
I think by ourselves, probably.
So it looks like
Onesie
we'll all
twosie.
just go out beforehand, or as many of us as wish to. We'll go out and review the site.
That
Is that
site's
a-
all finished, that's,
Yeah, well, exactly. It's the COC. Is this lot for sale or something, Tamika?
I don't know. I don't know if it's for sale or if it's still. I want to say the orders were. I looked up the building permit. It was from like 2017, but maybe that was for something different. They didn't indicate though.
Actually, hold
that
on.
one's been around for a while, as I recall.
Yeah, what's,
This is
Yeah,
0378.
So that's a while ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
So it might be.
Is that the as-built plan you had up, Peter?
yes.
Yeah, is that before or after our as-built requirement?
Well, if it's from, I'm looking.
I think it was before.
Give me the
2017 is
numbers.
coming up in my head.
Oh, 2009.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, the orders were written in May of 2009. So yeah, that's a while ago now.
I recall that one.
I'd say the as-bilt's okay then.
Yep, exactly. So
Do we even need to go out there?
It wouldn't hurt to drive
it
by.
can't hurt to look at it, see
It's
it.
a drive
Say we
by.
did a site visit,
Yeah,
so put it on the form,
yeah, check.
site visit date. What's up with the door? Or
There's
what
no
used to
door.
be a door?
That used to be a door. That's not a door anymore. It's all closed in.
That's pretty weird. How come they did that?
We'll talk about that after this meeting if you're really interested.
I'm curious, that's for sure.
Okay, so that's that. Processes and procedures. I am the first to admit that I didn't remember to read these to come up with comments.
It's okay, I'm losing my voice, so I wouldn't mind.
Then we'll put this off for next time. Next time will be a fun-packed meeting. Because those of you who are here remember that I said we'd be talking about the budget and the conservation agent. But Austin couldn't be here tonight, so that has been pushed off till April 2.
Good thing it's not April 1st.
Look, a select
Bad
board meeting on April
joke.
1st, that's just kind of a given.
Fun. I think you're missing it, Peter. You're missing it.
Isn't that April Fool's Day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move process and procedures to the next one. I'm fine with that. Anyone have any public comment?
Give this to, are we gonna do anything like that?
A brochure?
Yeah,
People don't really care.
well, that was mailed out in the town of Princeton. My kid lives over there.
We had a brochure too, and it's like,
Why? Oh, that's why, because this is a MAC brochure.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, why would Princeton
No, they took,
put anything about coastal conservation areas?
no, it's
Because
all.
there ain't a lot of that there.
That's a fits-all thing that you can, yeah. Well,
what do you mean,
you
so,
can probably get it
just to
from
make people
Mac.
aware?
Yeah, I'm sure, because it's got their
Yeah.
thing on it.
I didn't know if that was worthwhile bringing up to make people aware of what's what round where.
It,
It's cost to get rid of it, move it, so.
right, I think that there is value in us having something like that as we're getting our bylaw ready. As part of our advertisement. I think that's the most right thing we can do is, I don't wanna hold 4 meetings on Sundays about it, cause nobody's gonna care that much.
Nobody's
But
gonna
if
come, right.
once maybe, that's not a problem. 4 times, not so much. But we'll talk about that when we get closer to the wetland bylaw being done. Which again, is another thing we're gonna pick up, schedule for next time.
Can you use, NOI account money for stuff like this?
Why not?
That's not considered
Administrative.
administration?
That's not I have a hard time buying that as administration of the Wetlands Protection Act.
It's more advertisement.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
it's always easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
yeah, and when the cameras aren't rolling, I'll talk about other things that we might wanna use the money for, but
So we don't know.
that might not be strictly according to Hoyle, but we're not gonna talk about that now, are we? So, is there any other business before the commission tonight?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I have a question.
I didn't get the second in quick enough.
Damn!
So we're
Yes,
all,
Linda.
we're all set with letting, this forester, state forester guy, like, police Cleese work on both of his sites?
Yeah, I thought we were.
I don't know, I wasn't at the last meetings.
Oh, I thought we had talked about that and we said, yeah, the forest is gonna be right there watching them hand out, watching them pretty
Yeah,
close.
they had somebody who understood the wetlands
Yep.
requirements. And whose letter, what was it, DEP's letter? That we also reviewed last time. And
No, it was from Jacob. It was the email from the forester.
From the forester, yeah.
Yeah, he said he was going out to like delineate the wetland with the forestry guy, the guy doing the work.
Yeah, he did. Glenda, you didn't read my minutes.
Yeah, I did. I looked at him, but I just didn't know.
You looked at him, but you
What
didn't
about
read
when
it.
down the road, so what he still could develop Noble Hill and this Pleasantdale Road sites, right?
well, Noble Hill's gonna
It's
be
two
started
different- those two
soon.
different projects.
Yeah, those, right, Noble Hill is, well, I said soon, that's,
It's already on the town's GIS.
yeah, because it's an approved subdivision. McAllister Estates, is that what the other one's gonna be called, if I remember right? Is that there is no approved plan for that one.
For McAllister.
That is correct. And he does not have intentions of doing anything with it at this time.
Yep.
Okay,
Clock
any other
eye.
discussion?
I'm not saying anything else.
Oh, we already have a clock eye.
Joe will get mad. Williamson, I.
You've already said aye.
And I.
Melissa?
Dan's eye.
Great eye, we are adjourned at 7:26. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.